Coach JMO here, diving into the truths of how much protein you actually need to consume on a daily basis. What is the correct amount of protein to consume every day as a man or woman, or whatever the heck else you want to be? There's so much information out there, and a lot of this has to do with your own personal goals, your personal body mass index, and of course, if you're overweight, underweight, if you're skinny, tall, or any of the above. For example, if you're trying to lose weight, probably better to keep the protein intake on the lower end. If you're trying to gain weight, probably better to keep the protein intake on the higher end. But these rules all have their special circumstances. Also, do you feel like you're skinny fat? Do you feel like you have more fat and less muscle? Or do you feel like you have less fat, more muscle, more fat, more? All these different things play a role, and it can be very confusing. And basically, there's no right answer to this. But there will be a protein intake that is ideal for you. And that's before I even get started into your body's absorption rates and what your body can actually use, depending on your own personal stomach health, digestion health, and a plethora of other things. And my journey was not as smooth as I expected. So whatever you do, do not, I repeat, do not do what I did. And that was being unaware of how much your body actually needs. This has happened to me too many times in my past, in my fitness journey, and honestly, just in my personal health and overall well-being. I was spending way too much time just replacing meals with protein shakes. I just didn't feel good, and I was getting enough protein in, but there were days where I didn't eat enough. There were days where I thought I ate enough, but I still felt terrible, and I didn't know what the problem was. And when I really took a step back and looked at it from like month to month, I was getting way less protein than I was supposed to be, and I greatly suffered for it. And this journey starts with me at a very young age, getting started with a company that helps with post-workout nutrition. And that whole time, all I was repeating was, don't miss that 30-minute anabolic window. You need to get your protein 30 minutes in after workout. It's gonna be a wasted workout if you don't get your protein in. And boy, was that such a big fat marketing lie. I can't believe I was so dopey to believe in that for so many years. Not only that, I even prioritized low quality protein versus having a regular meal. Now, luckily we are way more aware now that this is just some BS marketing, but 10, 15 years ago when I didn't know better, I thought that this was everything. However, now we know that protein intake during the day plays a very crucial and a much larger role than any protein that you intake within a certain window of 30 minutes or an hour after exercising, as long as you get your protein intake for the day. Plus, this is another thing that I did. It can actually be a detriment to you. This post-workout protein shake that I thought was really helping me actually just decreased my desire to eat a real meal. Filling you up after a workout and preventing that post-workout ghrelin spike that really just wants you to sit down and have a real meal with real food, with carbs, fats, and proteins. Ironically, probably way more protein that's gonna be in your protein shake. But this video isn't about protein shakes. This is going to be about how much protein and what types and what quality of protein you should be consuming in order to optimize not just your fitness goals, but your mental well-being and your S3 actual well-being as well. Because trust me, it makes a huge difference when you're eating enough for your mental health, your physical performance and energy, and your ability to perform where it really counts. And I don't hate protein shakes. And if I am to consume a protein shake, I usually try and consume it after a nice satiating meal. And this is only when I'm looking to gain weight. If I could get this extra protein and calories from food, then I would. But some foods are easier to get down and they're just more palatable for the body. But real foods with fibers, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins are actually going to help you the most for mental, physical, and overall well-being. To be honest, I would only recommend these shakes to guys who know they need to eat more in a day and who have low metabolism from things such as just being skinny their whole lives, or like what I did, fasting way too much, tanking your metabolism, and then not having that hunger in your life. So when you do want to eat more calories and have a normal calorie diet, you're not going to be having to stuff food down your throat. But this is just temporary so that you can get to that level where you're actually able to consume proper nutrition and have the hunger hormones to support that. But most guys don't have this problem like me. A lot of guys have too much hunger hormone where they're constantly craving food, constantly taking in caloric dense meals, snacks, whatever they can get their hands on. Their metabolisms are way too far ahead of what their body can actually work with. But in my personal experience, I was the opposite. I wasn't eating enough and my body needed to eat more. I needed to feel more hunger, but a lot of things play a role in this: gut microbiome, metabolism, thyroid, and of course, doing things like I did, just not eating enough for a long period of time, which I cannot stress enough is not going to help you lose weight. You have to make sure you consume the proper amount of calories and not just do some crash course caloric restrictive diet. Now, fasting does have benefits for gut healing and spiritual benefits, but it's something that doesn't have to be done every single week or month like I used to do. But fasting or not, the moral here at the end of the day is to not fall for that protein marketing BS. I want to get this out of the way that there are clinical studies and meta-analyses showing that having that 1 hour protein window does not show any statistical effect, positive or negative, on your fitness gains, workout experience, weight loss experience, none of the above. But the type of protein you do consume throughout your entire day does play a very large role. And the first thing we're going to start off with is amino acids, more specifically the essential amino acids. And this is where quality comes into play. Now, don't come after me here, but there are some plant foods that do have a good amount of amino acids. There are also a lot of plant foods that do not have the essential amino acids your body needs. And a lot of meats and something like red meat does contain all 9 essential amino acids. So what's the takeaway here? Well, get both sources of proteins. Get your plant proteins if your body can handle the plant proteins. And if you can't, try a different plant protein. Some people don't like beans. Some people don't like soybeans for many reasons. Some people don't like peas. So find something that actually works for you. Like rice actually has protein in it. And just remember that you don't have to get all your protein from meat, but the best sources are going to be from meat-based sources. And don't overdo the meat either, because I used to only eat steak and meat and eggs, and I was getting all my essential amino acids, but boy, was I not feeling good. And my performance in the gym and the way I looked was suffering. Even though my protein levels were great, I was getting enough protein in every single day, no problem. But when it comes to quality, of course, we know that higher quality, more bioavailable is going to be able to be better assimilated in the gut and digested and dispersed into your body, into your muscles and your brain. However, what's the big question here? What is the amount of grams per day that I should be consuming? Well, I cannot answer that question for you, but there are different reference ranges that we have seen from clinical studies showing a good place to start, and then you can see where to go from there based on your goals, age, height, weight, based on your occupations, your proclamations, your emancipations. Everything has to do with it. Okay, maybe the last few actually have nothing to do with it, but there are a lot of factors here that go into proper protein intake. And don't forget, there is the possibility of getting too much protein, and as I've done, getting too little protein. Now, too much protein is probably difficult and really only involves gut issues, headache, nausea, maybe some extra stress on the organs. But to be honest, there really haven't been any studies showing that excess protein is really going to be that much of a damage. All it's really going to do is just be kind of a waste, and it's not going to be necessary. You're going to not be as hungry. You're going to miss out on quality carbs and fats because you're going to be eating too much protein, and then your body isn't going to be able to be balanced. So that could have more effects down the line with things like energy levels, your hormone panels, and blood tests. But eating too much protein is more of an uncomfortable thing. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Some people try and get 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And that's just hilarious to me. And it just seems like a great way to end up sitting on the toilet all day. But this study is just for healthy young individuals who exercise often. So I'm sure that having too much protein for most people is probably not going to be ideal for them. And of course, there's the people talking about dehydration problems. But my personal problem was actually too little protein. And this one could be a lot more scary than having too much protein. Yes, there is an increase in sickness, an increase of fatigue, brain fog, and even a loss of gains, as the body is not going to be able to upkeep the existing muscle. And it goes all the way to affecting your S3 actual health as well. But the worst for me was not being able to improve my health. I was just sitting there. I was so confused. I didn't know what was wrong. I was just sitting there scratching my head. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why do I not feel good? I exercise. I was eating very clean. I was fasting. I was doing everything I was told to do. And I still just felt terrible. I didn't have any drive. I just had apathy and no drive for life, and no drive to do the things I wanted to do in life. The loss of the gains was the least of my worries. I just wanted to feel good. And my energy levels were fine, but there's a difference between having high energy and feeling good. You know what I mean? So what are the numbers here? Some studies suggest that it's about 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight per day of protein, but other studies are a little bit more broad and show that it's about 1.4 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And of course, this is taking into account that you're also exercising, taking care of your body in other ways, and probably not too overweight or too underweight. But I personally like to keep it simple for myself. What I do is I test different numbers. I started out just matching my body weight in pounds with grams of protein, which for me is between 180 pounds and 200 pounds. And I would just match that and I would see how I felt. I noticed that if I get like 150 grams, I don't usually feel as good if I get, 180 grams. But if I get over 200 grams, I just feel bloated and I feel like I've eaten too much. I don't feel good. But if I get under 150 grams, especially under 100 grams of protein per day, I just do not feel as good as I would if I were to get into that 100 to 200 range. And I noticed this because my drive decreases. My ability to do things decreases. This doesn't mean that I don't want to get out of bed in the morning or don't want to take care of myself. It's more of those other things in life that you start to notice a little bit more, like your drive to go do something that scares you, your drive to go to the gym, your drive to lift more weights to get that extra rep in, your drive to talk to that girl that you're interested in or guy. But what it took for me was to take a step back and look at my protein intake over the course of multiple months. And I have a very active lifestyle. I go to the gym multiple times a week and I do a lot of physically intense activities. So for me, this is where I can find that homeostasis within my body. But of course, we know the guys out there love to get their Bro-tein on. They love to go to the gym, get their pump on, take their Bro-tein shakes, crush a Bro-tein shake for breakfast, add their Bro-tein shakes to their yogurts and oatmeals. Every day is just Bro-tein shake after Bro-tein shake after Bro-tein shake. And that's all fun and games, but real nutrient dense quality meals that are sufficient in protein are gonna be way better than eating like your child. Those guys can definitely get strong and get their essential amino acids in, but there's a difference between eating protein from a powder versus eating protein from a real meal. But like all good things, there is a time and place and use case for anything that can help you achieve your goals. So let me know in the comments what your ideal protein range is, or if you've been not eating enough protein like I have and you didn't realize it, let me know how much protein you've been taking in every day. So comment below what your ideal protein range is. Or if you just started tracking your protein intake and realized you were getting way too much or way too little than you actually expected. I'm curious to see what you actually are consuming on a daily basis, because I was pretty shocked when I found out how little protein I was consuming on a month-to-month basis on average. So as always, like and subscribe for your health.